Check, check, check. Hello. Check, check, check. Check, check. All right. All right. This mic will come on as soon as the screen comes up. But filmmakers, come on up. Matt, Stefan, come on up. Thanks, y'all. We're going to spend about 15 minutes just talking with these people. Again, I'm Tony Gapastone. I wanted to say our apologies. You know, we noticed that there was not full captions on this. Those things happen. That's not our intention to do that. The captioning was and is mandated for all of our films. And there are sometimes when the DCP and the glitches and all the technology thing does not work correctly. So please accept our apology. Yeah, it's coming on. It'll be on eventually. Kind of how it works. It takes a minute to kick in. So I'm just going to use my already strained voice to project. But we do want you to know that since 2023, we have required all of our films to be captioned so that there's inclusivity of the deaf community. In fact, today we do have ASL interpreters in other spaces in which when a deaf person or hearing impaired person comes, they can request that ASL interpreter, which is why donations and support helps us to compensate those people who are giving their time. So we have two across in the other screening and at our other venue today. So thank you for being a supporter. And when I mean supporter, you bought a ticket to come to church. So thank you for that. All right. So hopefully this will chop in soon, but thank you for your film. I've seen this thing 4 times, y'all. And we did also, I wanted to mention, have a request. We showed this in my church in Marin County. There's other churches that have utilized this. And one church said, could you take all the swear words out? And so I asked them to do that, and they were trying to do that amidst everything else. And then that caused some other glitches. And they're like, Tony, we're having some issues. I said, just keep the effing swear words in, all right? We can handle it. So thank you for doing that. So we have 2 mics. Hopefully they will be clicking on. Check. We have a media team, the Strathy media team that is working behind the scenes that has to work with the Cinemark team, and they're often trying to get everything in sync. So Cinemark is going to hopefully get that going soon. So there we go. But I would like to say really quick to our Strathy media team, the Penn media people, there's about 12 of them, 13 who have been here all 4 friggin' days, y'all, donating their time. Can we please give it up? Because this all is living on YouTube as well at BraveMaker.org. So all of our conversations we have can be viewed by other people, which is great. So Matt, let's turn it over to you to start. In case somebody came late, introduce yourself. And I want to know your first impressions because you did not see this until just now.
Yeah. Matt Stefan. I'm the lead pastor of Dwell Church, brand new church plant, San Mateo. I was watching it kind of through a theological or spiritual lens, but I also had a different hat on. I'm the PTA president of my kids' school, Beresford Elementary. It's the smallest public elementary school in the county. And part of the story you guys were capturing is wealth disparity and its impact on the social fabric of the world we're living in. At Beresford, there's 10% of the population is homeless. And then, we can just sort of tell the other parts of the pie chart come from tech families. So right here in one little elementary school where I'm knowing and serving the families and helping the teachers do their job, we have some of the dynamics that we get to see day in, day out that you all are capturing. So part of the way I put that together, I'm not from the Bay Area, but my faith tradition teaches me to invest as deeply as I can possibly imagine into the world where I live. And that means getting to know all the dynamics and the people and the history of the land. To truly know it is to learn to love it, right? And you all are helping tell that story. And as a pastor, what struck me is the power of poetry and story. Some truths are so deep, only poetry can describe them. Because you could have gone deeper into the numbers, but you took another avenue, that actually the truth at the heart of this is only captured in poetry. I loved that. And part of the story that we're trying to tell is around how do we imagine a new and better world. And the Bible, my faith tradition, calls that new creation. And we have a wounded or sick imagination that we're suffering under. Sometimes we put labels on it, capitalism, whatever. Everyone kept saying we have to work together to imagine a new way of doing this. So the window into how do we imagine a new story and empower the storytellers to help us do that helped me connect with the big bits of poetry in my scriptures. Genesis chapter 1, Isaiah chapter 40. The songs about Jesus in the New Testament are invitations to do what you're doing. Imagine a new world. So that's where my mind went, and I loved it. You guys made great art. It was incredible, right? I was so moved by this film. Yeah. I want to hear from y'all.
So Lyrical Opposition is your organization. It is a nonprofit. Let's talk a little bit about that and how and why Re-Entrification exists. Christian will share these two here.
Lyrical Opposition is based in San Mateo County. We oppose injustice through lyrical arts.
Hold up, say that again, because I always love when you all say that.
We oppose injustice through lyrical arts. That's a short version.
Oppose injustice through lyrical arts.
Yes. People couldn't remember our long mission statement, which is, inspiring change through social awareness and systemic change and flourishing and all this other terminology, seeking shalom in the, so opposing injustice through lyrical arts.
That's good. Yeah. Did someone help you consult that? Because whoever did that's great.
It was a team effort.
Okay,
It took like hours of, think tanking and getting together. So almost took a year to simplify it to oppose injustice through lyrical arts, which was already in our name, Lyrical Opposition. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so you've been doing the spoken word and lots of music coming out through Lyrical Opposition. When did the film and the awareness to tell the story about the unhoused and unsheltered come to be?
Yes. We've heard of a church called First Presbyterian Church of Hayward. They were in the process of developing tiny homes for the unhoused and putting them in their church parking lots. At the time, in another story, me, Figo, and the rest of our team were having, movie watch parties. Someone chooses a movie, we talk about it. Some people chose Forrest Gump, Good Will Hunting, and then Figo, who eventually became the director of the film, brought a movie called, it was a Sean Connery movie. I forgot what it was called.
Finding Forrester?
Yes, Finding Forrester. And then it was opening scene. We all watched that. We talked about it. Then someone in our team had a really vivid, dream about, a particular scene in Finding Forrester and trying to use that as a tool or a catalyst to talk about tiny homes, something with that First Presbyterian Church of Hayward was doing. So along that, there was a bill that was, film was finished and developed. It was developed in 2021. It was finished in 2022. At the time, there was a Senate Bill 4, which would allow churches to use their faith land for affordable housing. So we wanted to create awareness around that. So we pitched the idea to First Presbyterian Church of Hayward to allow us to tell us a story, and they gave us permission to do that. Yeah, so that's how it happened.
So cool and inspiring. So Matt and I'd love to kind of riff with you about this from this perspective. So I've been a pastor for 26 years. I now lead a nonprofit organization, and I live in the Bay Area. So I'm watching this, again, 4 times and thinking about, obviously I have a housing issue. I'm able to rent, and we're privileged enough to do that. We haven't been able to own yet. And we are a part of an organization called the Aslan Foundation, which helps pastors and nonprofit leaders try to get into housing. So we're in this place right now where we've been renting this house in Redwood City, Emerald Hills, way below market, because somebody's gifting it to us, right, in that way. Well, now the owner has died, and her kids are going, okay, cool, we would love to sell it to you, and we'll sell it to you below market. Well, we won't even put it on the market because it could get this astronomical rate. We're like, okay, cool, what are you going to sell it to us? And they give us the price tag. We're like, we can't afford that, So now, with the help of this organization, we're trying to find equity investors and partners to help us own this house. So I'm going if it's hard for me, and I have resources, I'm like, how much more hard is it for someone else? So I love this idea that churches, and being straight with you all, and I'm curious about you because you're in a church plant. Churches they got to change. They have got to change, or they are going to die. We know that. I was seeing that. I was like part of something that I thought was like, this is dying, and I don't want to die with it, so let's get out and try something else. And the church I'm with now, the Quest, before I came, they sold 2 acres, and they were able to build a resident home for seniors, and it's amazing. And now we saw this movie, and our leadership team, which is here today, they're saying, okay, what can we do? How many tiny homes can we build? And it's so refreshing to see churches thinking differently, because having that building be a place for Sunday and VBS and youth groups, it's the way of the past. We've got to be thinking about community. Churches got to be thinking about how can we fund community projects instead of trying to draw everybody here to our programs. We got to go, what can we do to go out? What's your thoughts? You're doing a church plant. You probably did a church plant for a reason. I'd love to hear what's going on in your head with all that.
Yep. No, we're thinking along the same lines, and Aslan is incredible.
You know Aslan too?
Yeah,
Okay.
and their model is, how do we put aside with each transaction of the kind you're describing a little bit of money to help pastors be housed in their own communities all through the Bay Area who maybe don't have those partnerships or friends who could buy some of that equity. Their model is really great. And when I talk with the people at Aslan, what they say is, this takes trust. That when you pitch this to Bank of America or whatever, they're like, this will never work. We're never doing that. So there's something here that you all are also capturing in Re-Entrification. Of how do we reintroduce safe spaces where we know and trust one another? That underneath some of the crises that we can name and build policies around, there's a crisis of the social fabric of our world that has to be reconstituted and reimagined, of how do we learn to know and love and trust one another again. So I think about that a lot, and I also think about, we're just undergoing an unprecedented amount of change. Yeah. That we're the generation that is like filtering what the next world will look like. And y'all are helping us do that. I saw another film this year. It's like a 5-minute deal. And it was at the Tate Modern in London. And it was 2 screens facing each other in a corner, same images. And it was shot as a Korean melodrama was the style, but it was a story of like a Jim Crow era mother-daughter relationship. The daughter had built a music career, and the mom was a maid. And the daughter had said, I'm going to be fancy, and I don't want to associate with you anymore. And the mom had come to knock on the door and say, I understand your decision. I just want to hold my baby one last time. It's this great scene. And yet the actors were trans Filipino sex workers, and the actors changed in every time the camera angle changed, different 2 actors. And the point was, actually all identities we're deconstructing them. The only thing here that resonates out of like, it's shot from this, the story told in this social location, the actors physically change every scene, the only thing that resonates, mother-daughter, right? So we're undergoing this tremendous amount of deconstruction and change from all angles, every relationship, every institution. And the reason it resonates so deeply with me as a church plant, but also with your film is, gosh, we have to stand in the gap to reimagine the whole world. And it takes artists who are by nature doing that already to help us do that. All these other things that the world was built for are suddenly obsolete. And we have to think, by the power of what I call Jesus' Holy Spirit, how do we make new creation? And your film's really a summons to do that. So even in our own housing situation, right, I'm like, I feel the pressure to reimagine the world. So that's where I'm coming from, and part of what came up with me.
That's awesome. I want to hear from you all. Comments or questions, feel free to raise your hand, shout them out. Yeah, say your name too, please. Question around, we talked about land acknowledgements, which I love. Gaga, we tried to get her to come here and do one of those, but the question is about land back.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, we always call it question or response because you don't have to have the answer, but you can do your best to respond. Q&R, here we go.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Gaga. We call her Ms. Gaga. Her name is Desiree Vigil, the Ohlone tribal monitor. And it was so important to have her be part of this film and opening up the space with a land acknowledgement. And beyond that, not beyond that, but before that, we were teaching a class to young people in San Francisco about Ohlone history. So San Francisco was called Yalamu, and that's like the native tongue of San Francisco. So I believe we start with education. You know, I think when we need to start in schools talking about what San Francisco was before colonization came in. And a lot of times, I mean, as a millennial, 1990, we weren't taught that in school. So it was important to team up with a tribal monitor who this is her life, this is her work, to discuss these conversations. And specifically in San Francisco, the Mission District, there's like a lot of history around there. So I don't know if you guys have been out there. You got any get burritos out there, right? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a bomb, right? What's the favorite spot? Okay, I could dig it. All right, that's a good answer. But I mentioned that because one of the first churches in San Francisco was built in the Mission District, and that's Dolores. And in Spanish, Dolores means sorrow. So everyone loves to kick it at Dolores Park. And a lot of sorrow was that took place in that land as well. So I think those are moments that we need to look at history. So when we talk about also land back, we need to begin with the conversation of just even acknowledging that it's their land. You know what I mean? Because people are not even acknowledging. As you mentioned, the government is, the Ohlone tribe is not a federal acknowledged tribe. So we got to start there. Like the government has to acknowledge that they exist, you know, because they're still there. So it's deep, you know, and as a person of faith, I feel like, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole because I believe that we need to also learn about the history about how Christianity, you know, came to this land, you know what I mean? And it gets, you know, the deeper you go into it, I was just talking to a homie about just the history in Africa specifically of how Christianity, a lot of times they're like, oh, it's the white man's religion. It's like, no, if you look deeper into it, there's a land over there that they had the history way before. And, you know, I just think those are conversations we need to have, and it could get sometimes, you know, people get a little bit uncomfortable with them, but it's like, if we don't acknowledge that, where are we going?
I don't want a church meeting if we're not getting uncomfortable. So, yeah, you know, I mean, that statement about good art comforts the disturbed and disturbs the comfortable. So that's great. The one somebody said last week, is Mark Clark here? He's from our church. He said, what's one thing you can't find in the Bible? I was like, there's a lot of things you can't find in the Bible, Mark. He said, a white person. I was like, okay. Bitch, you got a question?
No, I just wanted to say it was really beautiful how you guys found the balance. You know, there's a lot of horror stories that you could have told to kind of scare the audience, and I think you guys found a really good balance to make it palatable. But there's a lot of serious things that need to be addressed. But kudos to you and your team.
Rich, just giving you your flowers for showing the hope and the life and not the horror. And yeah, that's great.
I mean, there's the horror undertone.
For sure.
You guys have an approach that I think everybody's going to really respect, and that widens it to the audience, which means more people are actually going to see this and learn something. So,
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, bro.
I was sitting up there. Again, I've seen it 4 times. But in this space on the big screen, I was like, oh, next year, if we get a next year, let's say when we get year 7, we need to have you do some, like, our bumper videos, like, in every screening to speak those life. It felt like a prayer. It was like a respite. I mean, the hometown hero. I was, like, feeling that. I was like, oh, gosh. And just the words and the movement, like, those little 2 or 3 minute spoken word pieces are like sermons, right? Matt and I were talking, like, he does 15-minute messages, y'all. So if you want a church to get in and not have to sit and listen to 30 to 45 minutes, that's welcoming, inclusive, and, you know, on the cutting edge, those little minutes were really powerful, little sermons to me. Go ahead, Amy, up there. So Amy, just to repeat for the live stream in the room, was questioning, okay, I live in the Bay Area, I love it, I love where I live, and I also feel a little bit of maybe conviction. Am I part of this gentrification problem? What can I do? How can I make a difference?
Thank you for your question. Thank you for watching and having the courage to ask a question. As a born and raised in San Francisco person, it's not your fault that this is happening. Just to acknowledge that, I think as somebody that the intentionality of where you put your resources are like where you put your resources in is what matters, and the attention and the awareness that you bring and that you give to other people. Because Meta, Google, they're all going to do whatever they're going to do, whether with or without us. So, a sense of an intentionality of however those resources are being distributed helps, because we can try to go against it, but we're going to be, we're using Gmail and Facebook to communicate and spread word on activism, but we are using those tools. So some of those resources can be used for the good. And what you can do as far as other than spreading knowledge and all that is, there is land tax from the indigenous Ohlone, like the Sorgorite Land Trust that you can give, as well as there's a few organizations like the Firm Foundation Community Housing. They're building tiny homes, and there's other organizations as well that emerge from that. In the context of us, we're just artists. We were under-resourced artists trying to maximize the capital and resources that were given to us. We by no means could have bought somebody a house and give them generational wealth, but what we did was we were able to create a film that spread awareness on providing resources and to produce dialogue where people would actually feel convicted to do something about it. So we're just trying to maximize that, and by you answering this question, we were able to do that. And I don't know, spreading information about this film, the organizations that were involved. Do you have any other? I'm trying to think of other resources, other things that you can
Could I
do.
add to you just saying, like, you kind of touched on this, but you can do a screening in a community center, in a church, in a school, and I think that's a great step. Like, this 67 minutes is great. You could do something, in a 2-hour block, show the movie, do some spoken word, have some conversations. And I think that's a recurring theme for all of us at BraveMaker too. People are like, oh, this is so inspiring. This is so inspiring. And I'm like, I'm really tired of inspiring people in a way. I want people to take action and do something. Every one of us can take action, whether it's give money, volunteer, go to these places and help. Like, there's something we can do. And it's not going to be the same thing for everybody. That's the beautiful thing.
There's one small thing that's happening. There's a very important $20 billion regional bond in the November 5th election that opens up $20 billion for 7 counties and areas in California, and impacts California it's a really big bond. So that's why we're doing these films, and we have sequels from Re-Entrification. The second film's done to help promote that. So saying yes to I don't know what it's called, but it's called the Bay Area. I don't know what that policy is called, the Bay Area Regional Housing Bond. Saying yes to that will potentially eliminate, some form of homelessness in a lot of these counties and provide legitimate housing, because a lot of capital is going to be, this is the first of its kind to actually do that. So, yeah.
It's great. Thank you for inspiring us to vote and to use our democratic processes. Yes. Okay, I think we have time for one more comment, then Matt's going to come up and close us out. Comment or question, anybody? Okay, well, Matt, do you have any final thoughts? And as a pastor in this area, anything you want to say to call us, not just inspire us, but call us to action? Matt, come on up.
I think church leader hat on, part of what churches are supposed to be doing in the world is telling the story of the kingdom that is just and equitable, and part of that is a place where people can be seen. That's a great theme in your film. Is Jimmy Fails said the problem that made his movie was, I didn't feel seen here. So how do we tell?
Has anyone seen The Last Black Man in San Francisco? Raise your hand. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
See it. It was at Sundance. See it. Look up. Keep going.
Yeah. So how do churches become places where people are seen? And how do they tell a story of a world where everybody gets seen. And your film's such a powerful invitation to put images onto kind of the story map of how do we build safe places. So thanks, y'all.
Can we give it up for Figo Navarro, Christian Bustas, Matt Stefan of Dwell. Thank you so much, y'all. You can find your seats. We're going to close. They'll be hanging out afterwards, so talk to them, connect with them. And I'll say one final thing, because I've heard my friend and co-pastor Matt say this before, is also if you are a part of churches that are preventing people from being seen, why? There are many churches that do not deserve your time, your resources, or your funding, your tithing, because they are preventing people from being seen. I'm just going to lay that out. Look into the deep theologies and systems of your churches and be sure that they are truly welcoming and including all people. And if not, wrestle with that. What will you do?
All right. What a beautiful morning. So I want to do one final song. It's very, very short. And I think we're going to get the lyrics up on the screen so that you can see them. It's called Changed. And I'm so glad that Tony said what he'd said here at the end. I've heard him say it again and again and again at different screenings. He's tired of inspiring people, right? Inspiration can only go so far. Action is really where it's at, right? It's wonderful to be inspired, but we have to move beyond inspiration to change. We have to move beyond inspiration to action. And that is what this song is about. It's called Changed, and it's kind of a gospel song. And it says, we have been blessed, now we want to be a blessing, to be a blessing. We have been loved, now we're going to bring love. We've been invited, we want to share the invitation. We have been changed to bring change. And I think that's what the film was all about. I think, honestly, that's kind of what BraveMaker's all about, to be the change in the world. We are the story, we bring the change. So I hope that we can get the lyrics up on the screen, and I'm going to sing it. It's real short. It goes like this. We have been blessed, now we want to be a blessing. We have been loved, now we're going to bring love. We've been invited, now we want to share the invitation. We have been changed to bring change, to bring change. We have been blessed, now we want to be a blessing. We have been loved, now we're gonna bring love. We've been invited, we wanna share the invitation. We have been changed to bring change, to bring change. Thank you for this new life, thank you for the invitation. We want to live it loud enough to shake the nations in your name. We have been saved. We're going to shout about the Savior. We have been found. We're going to turn over every stone. We've been empowered to love the world to heaven. We have been changed to bring change, to bring change. We have been changed to bring change, to bring change. We have been changed to bring change, to bring change. That's it. Let's do it.